We'll continue the meeting. We're still in the question and answer session. Dr. K.K. Kwok. Chairman, before I ask the administration questions, I'd like to take this opportunity to reprimand you. As the chairman at last week's FC, please come back to the item. This is my time. Please do not interrupt me. Now I have to implement the procedures. I will just continue to speak. What you did was not only about the FC, but the entire public thought that it was a shame. You are incompetent as a chairman. You should step down, but you are shameless, and you remain in the chair. And we cannot continue our meaningful discussion. My question is really for the administration. This is the pilot training and support scheme. Secretary, you said just now, you were trying to muddle through with your reply. Basically, we are not going to oppose to the scheme, but you are going to spend $144 million to just benefit 2,000 students. Every student would get $70,000. If you can really help the students, then of course we support you. The biggest problem now is that there are many grassroots families and families with children with learning difficulties. They cannot adapt to traditional and grammar schools and their courses. So in DSE or other public examinations, they can hardly get good results. You should actually help these students most. But when you reply to questions of members, you did not even have that concept. I don't know whether it is because you just do not remember these students with special education needs. You don't help them throughout the primary and secondary school curricula. And vocational training should really be there to help this group of students with learning difficulties. So I'll ask you again, what have you done to help them? And will you set a criterion or a target to help such students? If yes, what is the quota? If not, why? And secondly, the industries. On the face of it, it looks rather proper. But if you are going to favor certain people, and if you want to act unfairly, then you actually will be paying wages on behalf of the employers, because the employers will offer a very low salary. Well, actually, $8,000 is not bad. If I were an employer, I would certainly go for this scheme. And you will be providing $8,000 every month for 4 years for me. And this will help them engage people, and you are going to underwrite the cost. So if you choose industries, but then you do not have a clear target, then you are actually only going to benefit the employers, not the students. Maybe there are not enough escalator hands, and so you would help them. And as you know, there are unscrupulous employers who just are there to squeeze everything out and milk the employees. Are you going to underwrite the employment costs for these employers?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Member. Students with specific learning difficulties are studying at different levels in our education system. We do have a host of measures to help them, ranging from psychological counseling, and we will try to identify their problems through some psychological tests and so on. Well, don't beat around the bush. How is the scheme going to help these SEN students? The VTC has already made a reply, and there is work to be done, and VTC does have a lot of support measures to help the students. Sorry. Answer to your second question. We will be helping employers in specific industries. Now, this is a pilot scheme. We offer 2,000 places. Now, of the $144 million, as to how much will be spent in each year, that is clearly set out in the paper. Now, the overriding principle is that we want students to have a pay when they're still studying and working at the same time. And also, the employers have to pay an allowance also. And then we should provide a good motivation to the employers to offer opportunities, internship opportunities. Dr. Elena Wong, I was asking about the industries to be selected. Would that be inequality in gender? Now, the VTC said that there would be more male participants for the industries to be selected. So I hope the VTC can give us more, can supplement the statistics on the ratio in terms of the gender. Now, of course, understand that you would not make any differentiation between the gender when you are enrolling the students. But for the industry selected or the programs, they are quite male-dominated. The industries covered are male-dominated, and that goes against the principle of sharing equal resources between the two sexes. It may not be direct discrimination, but it's indirect discrimination. I support this scheme, but I don't support your selection of industries which are really male-dominated. So the crux of the question is, how did you select the industries to be covered? Is it the case that somebody from the industry called you up and told you that they are short-handed? Now, from now on to 2019, will you change the industries to be covered? So how did you select the industries? Is it the case that the LWB had certain statistics and then presented you the industries to be covered? Or is it the case that the industries came and asked for assistance and then you opted for them? Or is it the case that there is under-enrollment in these industries and then you wanted to boost the enrollment of these industries? So what are the criteria? Thank you, Dr. Wong. VTC has 21 ITACs. Apart from that, we are also considering whether the employers in a certain industry is interested in joining the scheme, and there is no shortage of manpower, or when the young people are not interested in a certain industry, then that industry will not be selected. So based on all these considerations, we have selected the industries to be covered. Now, in paragraph 9 of the paper, we set out the broad criteria. And also, in terms of the gender, male to female, it depends on the interest of the participant to join the scheme. Dr. Fernando Zhang, last time, I also asked that in recruitment, what will you be doing for the SEN students or the Form 3 to 6 school leavers? And also the ethnic minority students, how would you make it possible for them to join the scheme? Now, if you resort to the ordinary face interviews and tests, written tests, now for the ethnic minority students, well, it would be these tests will be very difficult for them. They will be barred from the scheme if such is implemented. So for the 2,000 students or places, what are the measures that you will undertake to allow these two groups of students to enroll in the scheme? Thank you, Chairman. I will defer to the VTC colleague to discuss the operation of the scheme. We will not be implementing special support measures for SEN and ethnic minority students. We would resort to the normal procedures for enrolling SEN students and ethnic minority students. Well, then that doesn't work. As I said, and I'm repeating it here, now even for open examinations or public examinations, the EAA is making adjustments, measures, special measures for these students. They can have replacement tests and so on. If you take a across-the-board approach, then the two groups of students will never get into this scheme. Now, if you can't you help those students most in need? And you must have some adjustment measures in your enrollment process. Can you consider that? You don't? Well, for SEN students, we don't have a written test for them, and we have a special board, dedicated board, to help the SEN students who are required to go through the prescribed procedures. Now, well, they can't even get into the scheme. It's meaningless to talk about helping them when they are on the scheme or the programs. So what are the measures they will implement to help them enroll into the scheme? Well, I'll make a brief response. I understand Dr. Zhang's question. In the recruitment process, if a student doesn't know Chinese, then we will offer an English version, and then there also will be counseling masters to help them. Now, our overriding principle is that if they can really meet the requirements of the job, we will do whatever we can to help them take on the job. I would like to follow up on Dr. Helena Wong's and Dr. Fernando Zhang's questions. One has to do with gender, male employees, EM students, and SEN students. For the 2,000 places, I think there is a very minute chance that these groups can get into the scheme. If you don't have special arrangements for them, then they will not be able to get into the scheme, and the scheme is unfair. And you are, in fact, indirectly discriminating against them, and that's not proper. Secretary, I understand your questions. Well, we can't provide you with solid information on hand, and we would go back and provide you with information on the ratio of the gender, the number of students, ratio of students, having SENs, and also what kind of measures are put in place and so on. We will give you a paper later on. I'm sure we have the information. Well, you believe you have the information. What do you mean by that? Either you have the information or not. The VTC has a representative here. Now, Secretary, you said that you believe. Now, you are seeking funding from us today. Can you be more pragmatic? What kind of measures will you be implement to benefit the several groups of students we mentioned? For SEN and EM students, we do have a special board to interview them. And for this pilot scheme, we will be interviewing the applicants through the special board. Are they competing against the ordinary members of the public? Can you tell us how the board operates? The interview board for SEN, and that is really dedicated to interviewing SEN students. And we have supervisors who are familiar with the potential of SEN students, and also the Labor Department has a representative on the board as well. So we would be resorting to this established mechanism in the upcoming scheme. Well, what's most important is you do have places for them, for the SEN students and the EM students. Is there another board for EM students, or is there another board for the female applicants? Well, I would like to know how you're going to distribute these 2,000 places. Well, we don't have predefined categories. Well, say one for SEN students. So we will have a standardized recruitment or central recruitment process. Now, that's exactly what I'm worried, because if we have a centralized recruitment process for the 3 groups of students I mentioned, or less than 1/10 of the 2,000 places will be allocated to them, I think you should do a better job in taking care of the SEN students and also the EM students. So they have to improve on their scheme, right? Now, what are you going to do now that you understand our worry? Secretary? Now, if an student can satisfy the work requirements, that's the #1 consideration for us. Now, members raised a lot of questions about recruitment. Now, we would not be biased. Say, if you have that background, you would not be able to join or enroll in the scheme. The overriding principle is that the applicant or student can satisfy the work requirements of a certain industry. Mr. Lang Yu-chung. Well, if there is a special board, can you let us know the number of members and the composition, membership? That's #1. #2, many parents told us that SEN students have great difficulties in finding a job, even if they have finished a certain level of education. So if the scheme can help them, then that would be very good. Now, you said that you would be looking at their work capability, but then you don't have a special quota for them. So ultimately, well, they would not be helped at all. So my second question is, would you be giving us a certain number, say, to this group of students? Thirdly, SEN students. For other programs, there are dedicated personnel to help them to adjust to the work. And also, they may be providing counseling to these SEN students and special assistance. So would you be doing that as well under your scheme? Secretary, well, member, thank you for your question. As I said, well, if the student can satisfy the work requirements, and that's the #1 consideration. Now that the VTC has a special board looking at SEN students, and I don't have the detailed information, but I can provide it later on. Well, he doesn't seem to have answered my question. Now, you said that the applicant must satisfy the work requirements of the job. Then I don't think this is a good attitude.
Your attitude is quite bad. Secondly, I'd like to tell you that SEN students sometimes are quite capable. They have good work abilities. It's just that they sometimes may not be able to concentrate. They may have ADAH. So they are okay with some help and with counseling because they can actually work. But you have not answered my question. You are asking people to have the work ability first. So there is discrimination. It seems on your part that SEN students would more or less not be able to have that kind of work ability. So I want you to answer my question. If they satisfy the basic requirement, what help can you give them? Secretary, can you give them more help? We will. First of all, they have to be able to work in a position, or else they may have personal safety problems. And also, if they suffer from a sense of failure, then we will be working against our own target. Under that major premise, I understand VTC has many different arrangements to help NCS and SEN students. I have visited some of the courses myself, and I know how they are conducted. As to whether there are these students, I'm sure there are. We will give you the information later on that, in fact, we have had these cases and that the students are learning happily and are working for their future. Chairman, I just don't trust the secretary, you say you believe so, but you're not sure. What if this will not happen after we have given you the money? You should not say you believe there are. You should say, I'm sure there will be, even if there aren't any now. Can you do that, Chairman? Secretary, it's very difficult to set a quota in the vacuum. No, you are not answering my question. I'm asking you about the complementary measures. Don't step sideways of the question. Can you tell me there certainly will be such supplementary or complementary measures? I have no supplement to make. That means you don't have it. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, second round. As I said in the first round, Chairman, many young people are not suited to study in traditional grammar schools. So I support this pilot scheme. I support the major direction, but then we have to be careful about the operational details, or else the scheme will not achieve good results and it may attract criticism. As some colleagues said, how do you take care of the NCS and SEN students and also disabled students? And as Tan Ka-Piu said, are you going to only cater to dropouts from S3 to S2, but not to S6, but not S1 and S2? So I would like to ask you whether there can be some latitude. For example, now that you have a total quota of 2,000, can you not map out part of that for those groups of people? And also under the VTC, don't you have a kind of youth college so that you can take care of the needs of the NCS and SEN students, so that you can take care of the worries of Dr. Fernando Zheng and other members? Can you answer me that question? And also, as I was asking, the money would help employers pay the wages and salary, but we are actually using public money. And my worry is, what if students drop out halfway? You say you will not recover the allowance from them, but we are using public money, and I'm worried that if there are peace-rated workers and they cannot hold down their job, and so they join the scheme, and in fact $10,800 is not a small sum, and then they stay in the course for just 2 years, and for no reason at all they drop out, and then are you afraid that the scheme can be hijacked for other purposes? Because after all, we are talking about public money. Thank you, Mr. Lam. A very good question. If we are talking about wastage or drop out halfway, I'm sure we can look closer at this point. As we said, we put the quota at 2,000, but if you space it out over 4 years, the quota is not too big. And some students, as we said, a few hundred students have already started reading the foundation course. But I understand that what Mr. Lam said might come to pass, and we will try to see what can be what can be done. As for arrangements for NCS and SEN students, I can ask the VTC to give you the details. In the VTC, we do give special help to SEN students, and we have a different composition in the special interview board. But as for the membership, sorry, I cannot remember all the members. I know there are Labour Department representatives and our colleagues, and also representatives from the different disciplines. I can go back and give you the answer. No, don't answer Mr. Leung Yu-chung's question. I'm asking my question. Please answer my question. Don't you have a youth college or something? Yes, we do. We also have special programs for ENs. I think you know our mechanism very well. Sorry, your time is up. No, you have used up my time. Can you not ask them to answer my question? Yes, at the youth college, we do have special programs for NCS. Next one, Mr. Ip Kin Yun. I'd like to follow up on the point raised by Mr. Lam Tai Fai. I think he asked valid questions. Many colleagues today mentioned the NCS students and also SEN students and also females. These are important issues about vocational training. Let us say the universities don't usually open doors to them. And if you also close the door to vocational training, then where should these young people go? Actually, vocational training would be giving them more chances. So I would say that the two bureaus, I mean the VTC and the Education Bureau, should really think hard about this. And that is how you can help them to the largest extent possible. I'm talking about those groups, including NCS, etc. As long as they can contribute to a certain industry, why do you want to keep them out? That's the first question. Secondly, as Mr. Lam Tai Fai mentioned, the dropout issue. I think the Secretary has already given us a positive answer, and that he would take a closer look at the issue. I'd just like to add to that. When you pay the salary, there will be a different composition of students. You cannot try to estimate the behavior pattern of future students based on what you know about present students. Maybe they are attracted by the payment and they come here for 2 months and leave. I'm sure many colleagues share that worry. If that's the case, then the public money would be wasted and also the place itself will be lost. You expect the students to stay, but these students drop out and leave after a short while. And you talked about previous behavior patterns. You say if they stay on for half a year, then it's rare that they would leave. I'd like to ask about your present cohort of students. How many of them would stay for more than half a year? Can we have the figures? Members, if you please go directly to the figure. Well, yes, I'm talking about how the money is distributed. In the first year, the employers have to pay the salary. We don't fork out any public money in the first year. When we discussed with employers and industries, they had their worries, but they knew that this was worth their investment. And if students leave within the first half year, well, if you want a percentage, 70% of them would stay. But are you saying that if it is not public money, if it is money from the industries, we can allow it to go down the drain? And this has to do with the quota because it would already be filled. Can I please continue? We have looked into students' behavior. After half a year, if they know or think that this is the industry they like, they would stay. And therefore, in the second to the fourth years, they have to work in addition to study. In other words, they have $8,000, but they also have to work. And then the $1,500 allowance would come in. As EB colleagues have said, in the second year, they already work in the industry, and if they know that they like the industry, it's very seldom that they would leave. Therefore, when we designed the pilot scheme, we are not thinking of asking them to pay back the $1,500. You haven't given me the percentage. She told you 70%. Okay. Dr. KK Kwok, I have 2 questions for the administration. Number 1. Those students, if they are SEN and cannot enter a university but are eligible for these schemes, do you know the figure? And then eventually, how many will be chosen? I want another figure. The scheme is attractive, but if you have to use so much public money for it, I don't know how you can expand it in future. You are going to start the scheme. I don't know when you will conduct a review. Many grassroots families may be interested in joining, but since you are using so much public money, you may actually be subsidizing the employers. How can you allow the scheme to benefit more students in the appropriate age bracket? Say, after the pilot scheme, how many students would you like to help or intend to help? And I'm talking about students who cannot enter universities, because this is really just a drop in the ocean. There are many students who may drop out before S6 or who might have completed S6 but will not be able to go any further. Who can answer the question? Secretary. Well, I can tell you more about the causes. Number 1, within those 4 years, the students will have practical training. They will be given the basis for future development, and they can work for their own career. This is one of the attractions. Number two, if they continue to work after the course, we can fit them in at Q4 or Q5 of the qualifications framework, and they can further their studies so they can achieve even higher qualifications in terms of academic and professional qualification. That is another important point of the course. After the course, they would be at Q3 or level 3 of the QF, and then they can go further up the ladder. This is one of the success indications, and this will provide a multi-pathway. No, sorry, Chairman, I think the Secretary did not understand my question. I asked two questions. How many SCN students who will be able to join the course? Do you have a percentage? How many right now? Do you have a figure? Just now, I was talking about SCN and NCS students in present courses. No, Chairman, you are the Secretary for Education, and I'm asking for a figure, but you cannot give it to me. Well, as I said, we do not have the information at hand, but we can supply it afterwards. We can't really depend on you. Too bad. Next, Dr. Helena Wong, third round. Chairman, I have been asking the question, but I still haven't got a clear answer. I think the Secretary for Education just doesn't understand gender mainstreaming. You are responsible for education. You are here to get a funding support. In terms of supply of education, the administration has a legal obligation to abide by the 4 discrimination ordinances, including, well, I'm not talking about family status. I'm talking about racial discrimination ordinance and also the disability discrimination ordinance and also sexual discrimination ordinance. You have to make sure that there will not be racial, disability, or sexual discrimination. But then, judging from the courses you are going to provide, it's clear that if you look at the gender working in these industries, it's very clear that you have this propensity towards the male gender. And I'm asking you, what measures do you have to help those who will not benefit from the scheme? And I'm talking about the genders. You have not told me any mitigation measures. Other members have mentioned the ethnic minorities and the disabled, and yet you have not told us any concrete measures. It's not that I will hold up this item. I support it. But I think you are setting a very bad precedent. Because when you roll out these schemes, you have no concept. You don't have this gender awareness.
And you are not sensitive to the needs of the ethnic minorities, the disabled students. I don't want to see any more disregard of the Education Bureau on discrimination ordinances. Now, Chairman, I think you should remind the Secretary that they should look at the checklist before they present a proposal. I think you've made yourself very clear because you are repeating your points. Next one is Dr. Fernando Zhang. Well, now we learn that there is a special board for SEN students. I don't know how it operates. If I just look at information on your website, it has to do with just the general recruitment or enrollment process. Now, for this pilot scheme, in dealing with female applicants or ethnic minority applicants, do you have any special procedures? Now, how will this board work under this scheme? That's number one. Number two, I hope that you should especially enroll the several groups I mentioned because they have a stronger need. Now you're talking about 2,000 places, and we want to help those most in need. I hope that you can do that. Third, among the 2,000 places, if there is a predefined quota for these groups, and that would even be better. And then you'll be able to take care of the needs of the SEN students and the EM students and also female students. Fourthly, now the program will run for 4 years. And on the second, third, and fourth years, then the salary will be $8,000, and you'll be giving a progressively higher subsidy. Now, this is really a full-time job. Can the employer show them more in terms of finances? I think they have jotted down your opinions. Next one, Dr. Kwakaki. Dr. Kwakaki, Chairman. The Secretary, you don't have the information. Let me tell you this. There are over 30,000 SEN students, and on average, 70,000 to 80,000 students are taking the SE exam. And according to international standards, around 10% have SEN, so around 7,000 students, in other words. So I don't think you are helping them. Now, I'm trying to assist you here. Is there any way that you can expand the scheme to benefit more SEN students? You haven't answered my question. I don't think your scheme will be sustainable because such a huge amount is involved. Now, do you have any targets in mind? Well, share your targets with us. I will give you 1 minute. Secretary. Now, you reminded me of 2 points. First, VTC should comply fully with the relevant ordinances on discrimination, and it is being monitored by the Equal Opportunities Commission. Please answer my question. You are answering Dr. Wong's question. Now, the member raised a lot of suggestions on issues relating to gender and so on. We will deal with those. So you've reminded us that in our enrollment process, we will try to be more sensitive to SEN students and SEN students so that we can really help them. So we've heard your views. I am asking you about your target. Do you have any target? How many SEN students will you be helping? And what is the expansion plan for the scheme? Is that financially sustainable? We will have 4 years' time to look at whether the scheme is successful. I think it's premature to say what will follow. And also, for the scheme to be successful, the students should have a good job. So as for the number of SEN students and NCS students to be enrolled, then we will pay attention to that. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, my question is related to Kaki's question. Now, the industries to be covered include building services, engineering, E&M, and air conditioning and refrigeration. How did you select the industries? Well, they are male-oriented industries. Or, well, is it the case that these industries are very short-handed? I would like to know how they came up with these industries. I understand the member's question. What I can say is that In selecting the E&M industry, a number of factors have been considered, whether the industry has the conditions. And in paragraph 9, we set out clearly the criteria, and we didn't select the industries arbitrarily. We have to look at the operating conditions of these industries. So, Secretary, have you ever considered this? Of course, we are all very concerned about SEN students. Now, if you ask SEN students to take E&M courses and building services courses, I wonder whether they're appropriate. Would you consider providing other programs which are more suited to the needs of SEN students? Yes, I think you've asked a very good question. There are many other programs, in fact. For this pilot scheme, we are covering these specific industries. Next one, Dr. Helena Wong, speaking for the 4th time. 1 minute. I will be asking a separate question. This program will last till 2019. In assessing the success or otherwise of the scheme, and you mentioned a number of indicators in paragraph 12. You estimated that there would be 30% of dropout among students. Now, what would you be adopting as the indicator to assess whether the scheme is successful? You mentioned job matching and the percentage of trainees who successfully completed the training and so on. Now, the costs will be shared by the government and employers. Do you think the government should continue bumping money into the scheme? What is the financial sustainability of the scheme? Now, in terms of the targets for review, we set those out in paragraph 12. In the first year, we expect 70% of students will stay. So 2,000 students will still be our target, and we hope to achieve that in the level of students staying. Now, he hasn't answered me. You list a number of factors, but you haven't given us the standards. No standards in the paper. The percentage, the specific percentage. Well, how many percent of people will join the industry? How many percentage of students will be retained? Well, I said we hope that it will be 100%, of course. Now, according to what the VT colleagues, C colleagues said, now if the apprentices of the students like the scheme is very unlikely that they will leave. Now, if we want to set a specific target, perhaps I can supply that later on. We hope that it will be 100%. Next one, Dr. Fernando Zhao. My first question. If an SEN student comes to apply for the scheme, what will be the special arrangements for them? And for NCS EM student, what is the special arrangement for them? Well, perhaps you can take that question first. VTC colleague, the actual operation. SEN students, as I said, we have a dedicated board to interview them. I will try to provide them with all sorts of support to help them finish the course. So this is already ongoing. Now, as for NCS students, we will be making adjustments in our programs. We will provide them with special Chinese classes as well, so that they can communicate with colleagues and students. So this is what we're doing already. I want to follow up on what Dr. Wong has asked. There should be quantifiable indicators. The secretary said that he hopes that it will be 100%. It's not a level to measure. And what we meant is there is an indicator, a quantifiable indicator to assess whether the scheme is successful or not. If you have such an indicator, tell us. If not, then tell us that you don't have such an indicator. VTC colleague, I'll defer to the VTC colleague to take that question. This is just a pilot scheme. And 1 year later, we will be looking at the percentage. So at this stage, well, please allow us not to set an indicator. Chairman, I think an indicator is important. The whole purpose is to attract more people to enroll in the scheme and to join the trade. So if we don't have an indicator and quantifiable indicator, there's no way we can say whether the scheme is successful or not. So if that is not in place, please set a target or indicator as soon as possible. Dr. Fernando Zhang, I would like to follow up on the second part of my earlier question. This is a 4-year program. And in the 2nd to 4th years, it's like a full-time job. Average monthly salary, $8,000, and the government is giving also allowance. And for the 3 subsequent years, it will be the student will be able to get around $10,000. It's all public money. It's not a short-term program. And the students will be working for a longer time in the last 3 years, and all the income will be shouldered by the government. Have you considered whether the employer should be asked to shoulder more? And also, upon completion of the program, does the employer have any kind of responsibility, say giving priority to take on these students as employees? Well, let me clarify. The $8,000 is provided by the employer. And then the allowance in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year, it will be provided by the government. And in the 1st year, it will be provided by the employer. So this is something that I want to clarify. What about priority in taking on the participants as employees? Now, the employers in various trades should naturally hope that the employees can join the trade, or the participants can join the trade. So we also set the minimum monthly salary for the 1st year of employment in the scheme. Another question to review. You said that you would be having regard to the completion rate, the rate of joining the relevant trades, and the retention rate, and so on. This is a pilot scheme. Will the government consider expanding the program if it is successful?
Or for it to be extended to other industries? Can the Bureau give an indication? And also, according to what kind of criteria will you make the decision I'm asking you to make? Thank you, Dr. Zhang. That's a very valid question. We hope that after the course is completed, we will be able to provide a few things. Number one, whether we have the conditions, according to experience, to extend it to other industries. And number two, if it is successful in achieving the original targets of the pilot scheme, and judging from the manpower requirement of these industries, I'm sure the demand is much greater than the quota of 2,000. So I'm sure there is a high possibility of expanding the scheme. Well, I'm asking you, on what basis will you consider the pilot scheme successful or not successful, and for it to be expanded? One of the indicators will be that this is a manpower training scheme. Number one, when young people join the scheme, if they think that they will be given a particular skill. They will also have the opportunity for further studies and career development. This is on the level of the students and trainees. And secondly, whether they stay in the industry, well, that would depend on how the employers view the contribution of this new manpower structure. This is on the part of the employers. Number 3, it is the administration side. The instructors will have the experience in arranging the course materials, and also when students do a study come work program, whether the two can complement each other. And this is about teaching and learning, and we will consider this as well. In other words, Chairman, there will be a review. Will there be that review done? We have heard the Secretary make a few points. When will you conduct a review? In other words, a particular review on this pilot scheme. And also, will you give us an account on general or future implementation? Well, there will be the review. Okay, that's it for questions and answers on this item. And now we have to deal with the motions put forward by members under 37A of the Finance Committee procedure. Tabled for members is a short paper giving an account on the motions already received. The chairman and the secretariat have done some work in order to come up with this short paper. Members, you've got it, right? If you have, I will now walk you through that paper. I have not received further motions. I think the paper talks about all the motions I have already received. Yes? Sorry, speaker not coming through to the interpreter. Sorry, the speaker's mic is not on. Now I'll ask the clerk to walk through the paper briefly. Sorry, Mr. Wang Yukman is not coming through to the interpreters. Mr. Wang Yukman, please wait for me to call your name before you speak. As we know, there are 14,274 motions that were submitted without notice. It was at about 12 o'clock yesterday that we received them. And the Secretariat and some other staff members have worked for a long time, and I also took part in the preliminary analysis work. I can only say that we will try our best in order to let members know what the gist of those motions are. Now, Mr. Wang Yukman, if you like to elucidate, I can allow you the time to do so, and then I will ask the clerk to supplement. There are just a dozen or so motions in this paper. You have to explain to me why. You talk about the main content of the motions, but you do not exactly address all my motions. You have only selected some, and you regard those as what is acceptable to you. I think you have done some outrageous work. Look at number 1. My original content is that in accordance with para 37A of the FC procedure, since the pilot scheme has something to do with Hong Kong's overall employment market, but you have crossed it out. This is one of the amendments I like to propose. And also about the education system in Hong Kong, I'm saying that there are industries that are sunset industries, and also the manpower is aging in some industries. But you have put a bracket over that. And I also mentioned 2011, 12, and 13, but you did not include those. And I have also said that you should allow the Central and Western District Council to vote on this and allow the residents to express their stance. But CNW DC is only one of the district councils. Why not Kowloon City? Why not Kwai Chung? I have included all 18 district councils, but why do you only select Central and Western? Why don't you also accept Chin Wan, Kowloon City, and all the other district councils. I have got a table here as to how I came up with the over 14,000 motions. And also, some have to do with voting and the others have to do with 12-month consultation. They are quite distinct, but you have made your selection quite indiscriminately. So, Chairman, I will ask the legal advisor and the clerk to explain to me how you selected these 10. I need written explanation because I need to take this to the court as evidence. Why did you choose Central and Western? Why did you choose Hong Kong University and not the other tertiary institutes? Here I'm talking about the extramural departments of all the universities, and I included Ivy, LAB, the main trade unions, etc. Why did you not choose those? If you chose this one, it goes to show that all those in the same group are reasonable. You have selected the voting in Hong Kong U so that all lecturers and students can express their stance. Then why don't you include amendments in the same group mentioning UST, for example? Other members cannot see the content of the 14,000 amendments. I hope later on we can have these in the computer. But now I think you are riding roughshod on me. You have to explain it orally to me so that I know why, and maybe other members are not interested, but this will be minuted. Also, I need a very detailed written explanation addressing each and every one of the motions I have put forward. I have different formats of the different groups. Now, I have them all in this paper that I have. I'm talking about the standard working hours and minimum wage, etc. So you are bulldozing through my motions. So actually you did not have to spend the whole night reading my amendments. You were just indiscriminately picking and choosing some from those 14,000. Why Central and Western? You have chosen Central and Western for all the district councils that I mentioned. Is it that it is of a higher level than other district councils? I actually mentioned all 18 DCs. You know, I'm wise. I'm asking for a reply only today. Please reply me clearly, and then I need your written reply to take to the court. Okay, Mr. Wang, I think you are quite detailed in your comments. Now I will ask the clerk to speak up because a lot of the work has been done by the Secretariat. Please allow me to say something else. Okay, be brief. I support the funding request, all right? I told you so. But I won't want to make it difficult for you by moving these amendments. But it's just because you did not accept the 10,000 odd motions for the NTNE item, and I have already applied for judicial review. And if things go smoothly, you will receive a letter from the courts next week. But for this one, you have not drawn a line, and it is quite outrageous for you to choose just 10 out of 14,000. You must not draw a line indiscriminately. You know, if I just glance through or leaf through these, you are already unreasonable. You have only accepted Hong Kong U and Central and Western, apart from all the other district councils and tertiary institutes that I mentioned.
I've mentioned the 18 district councils, all the tertiary institutions, all the extramural study departments. So why have you accepted only Hong Kong U and not the other tertiary institutions in Hong Kong? Now I want to say that this is not a ruling. This represents a preliminary analysis. So we've got the 9 basic samples, and then we've got variations A and B. In other words, different district councils, different institutions, different unions, and then there are different methods, including consultation, voting, and so on and so forth. So these are the combinations that we've come up with. If we accept all the 14,000 motions, now let me finish. If we are to handle them all, now let me finish. Let me tell you what the Secretariat thinks. I will tell you how we intend to do it. 14,274 motions. And so we will need 2 minutes to vote on each motion. In other words, we'll need 476 hours or 238 meetings. So we've come up with these combinations, and I hope that you and your assistants can proceed further on this basis. We have to complete the discussion of an item within a reasonable period of time. Mr. Wong Yok Man, you said that you supported this proposal. I don't think we can afford to spend 476 hours to deal with these motions. So we have to combine some of these motions. The Secretariat will be in touch with you to see how they can be combined. Sorry, the speaker is not coming through. Sorry, the speaker is not coming through. Now, we've given you the basic analysis. And I can tell you that we will issue a ruling formally, and so we're going to do this under 37A. So does it mean that apart from Central and Western, Chun Wan will also be accepted? In other words, you have to make yourself clear. You didn't really make yourself clear. So I don't think we should only be voting on these 10 amendments. So does it mean that we can't vote on these today? You've asked me and my colleagues and my assistants to work on these. Now, 18 districts, I think one district is already representative. I won't argue with you on this. Oh, this is really ridiculous. How come one district council can represent the other 17 district councils? You've accepted Central and Western District Council. In other words, for this scheme, there will be voting in the Central and Western District. The residents can give their views. So how come the residents in Sham Shui Po, Chun Wan, and the other districts can't vote on the scheme and can't be consulted on the scheme? I invite the clerk to elaborate. Chairman, because we didn't really have enough time, and so what we did was we in fact tried our very best to help members deal with the motions, and we tried our best to help the chairman come to a ruling. And we've tried to identify the most important content. And I understand that Mr. Wong Yok Man is of the view that the targets of the scheme should also include other students. For example, in the 2010-2011 cohort, 2011-2012 cohort. And then Mr. Wong is of the view that there should be a more flexible arrangements, for example, a credit system, and then the number of working hours should be, say, no less than 30 hours, and then the remuneration should be no worse than a statutory minimum wage, and then and so on and so forth. So we are of the view that in Mr. Wong's motions, these are the main points. And then on the right, we have the two variations. Firstly, before the scheme is launched, voting should be carried out in different districts, in various institutions, for those concerned to give their views. And then the second variation is to, before the launching of the scheme, conduct a 12-month consultation exercise lasting for at least 12 months in the various districts, various institutions. Now, in fact, Mr. Wong has pointed out or has referred to a number of institutions, districts, and so that's why we've tried to give the chairman an idea of the main content and also the possible variations. Mr. Wong, you can supplement now. Or you can supplement later. Let the clerk finish. The chairman has to, in accordance with 37A, study the content of the motions. He also has to consider how to make use of limited meeting time. And it seems that the chairman has just suggested that the member be asked to consolidate the motions to down to a number that is considered possible for handling by this meeting. Chairman, so are you telling me that you want to save time, you want to save paper, and as a result, you just choose one district, Central and Western, you just choose one institution, tertiary institution, Hong Kong U? Now, the fact that you've accepted this motion shows that my proposals are reasonable. How come there's no need to consult the trade unions on the scheme? I think all my motions make a lot of sense. And then I'm saying that in the different districts, in the different institutions, in the different trade unions and different organizations, there should be consultation lasting for at least 12 months. So, Andy, do you agree that, in fact, you've already made a decision? The chairman has made a decision. You talked about the need to save time, to save paper. So, is it really meaningful to ask me and my colleagues to consolidate these motions? Now, I can tell you, or I can give you this piece of paper on this table, on the content of my motions. And I think you should at least approve or accept one of the one for each category. But you've only chosen 9. In fact, they are all reasonable motions, but you need to save time, you need to save paper. So, as Jimmy has pointed out, the chairman needs to take into account the impact on the proceedings of the meetings in making a decision. But I think it's really outrageous that you've exercised your choice in this manner. I've moved 14,000 motions, and you've only chosen 9. Now, Mrs. Carrie Lam said that I treated the people of Hong Kong as if they were my enemies. But I want you to not to set this very undesirable precedent. In fact, you are busy, so am I, and I've spent a lot of time on these motions. Now, for the next one, I have about 1,800 motions, and for the rest, I may have a few hundred motions. Now, I'm not saying that you do not have the power to make a ruling, Chairman, but please do not act as if you were ending the filibustering. I want to say that I'm angry, but not as angry as I was yesterday, but I will demand a written ruling. Now, let me say this to you. Now, when the court has given leave, then we will meet in court. So I will take an oath on Monday, all right, I don't have money, but I will use all my money to go to court with you. Now, I want to tell colleagues that you may hate me, but you have to act in accordance with the FC procedure. 37A is very important. Now, the pro-establishment members may also need to filibuster on certain occasions. So please do not distort the FC procedure. You will suffer in the future. No, the Democrats have never thought that they will be expelled today. In the past, only the president could expel members from the meeting. So the Democrats have only themselves to blame. Now, yes, I know that you and your colleagues have already done a lot of work, and I've already explained to you the basic principles. And if you are unwilling to consolidate your motions, then we've already suggested that you should do some consolidation. Sorry, the speaker is not coming through. Sorry, the speaker is not coming through. We've already done a preliminary analysis. So the Secretariat has already done a lot of work. And this is the preliminary outcome. We've classified your motions into 9 groups, and then there can be 2 variations. So we hope that we can choose or get a sample out of the 18, so that for example, say if you want to go to district council, then if there is a motion on one district council, that will be regarded as applying to other district councils. We do not want to paralyze the work of this finance committee, and I don't think Mr. Wong would like to see this happen either. So if possible, please consolidate your motions along these lines. And if you refuse to consolidate the motions, I'm afraid I can only tell you that we really can't handle all the motions, and we have to hand them back to you. The speaker is not coming through. So we're just suggesting that you consolidate your motions. The Secretariat will contact you. So in other words, 9 groups and then 2 variations, 9 times 2. I think this is a realistic approach. I think we need to be pragmatic. If you find this idea acceptable, please consolidate your motions. If you find this idea unacceptable, I'm afraid I can only return the motions to you, and our ruling will be annexed to the motions returned to you. The ruling will be given to you after today's meeting. After today's meeting. And if you refuse to consolidate the motions, then no.
I'm sorry, the speaker's not coming through. The speaker's microphone has not been turned on. Mr. Wong Yuk-man, I have made it very clear. I've told you my arrangements, and you should consider that. But if you think that you cannot consolidate them into 18 amendments, then I've told you that we just have limited time, so we cannot handle them all. So I hope that you can be more concerned about the smooth running of the meeting. We want you to consolidate your amendments so that the number can be more reasonable. and we will adjourn for a while so that you can make the consolidation. Mr. Chen Chi-chin, is it a point of order? It's not clear. Is it a point of order? If it's not a point of order, then I cannot allow you to join the discussion. Why not? Sorry, the speaker is off mic. I've told Mr. Wong that if he is willing to consolidate the amendments, then I will give him some time to do that. If you think there is such a need, then I'll adjourn the meeting for a while, then you can do the consolidation. Or we can move on to other items and then you can do the consolidation now. The clerk has already made it very clear and I've already given you a response. You are making up excuses. You want to save time, you want to save papers, you want the meeting to run smoothly, then you can do whatever you like. So it's like ending the filibuster, and you are violating paragraph 37A. I want to make it very clear here. Now, why is the Central and Western District representative? And how come there's only Hong Kong University among all the tertiary institutions? I've covered all the tertiary institutions, including Ivy, and also I've covered labor unions. So why do you want to classify them into groups? And actually it should be 81 times 81 if you want to do it thoroughly. You have to give me a reason. So for each type, well, you've divided them into different types. Now you have to tell me why you've divided them into these different types and categories. You can say that if you want to consolidate, you have to consolidate in accordance with the 9 groups and 2 variations. What am I going to consolidate? I'm just going to take them out from the computer and then I'll pick one under each of your groups and variations. Well, there are at least hundreds of them and you won't even accept that. So you have to give me a concrete reason, and I'm not going to accept your excuse just now. I am not going to consolidate the amendments. Everybody's not willing to see me do things like this. I'm fighting alone, but I'm fighting for you all. You have to make it clear. You have to define what is 37A, and that's also teaching people. And a lot of people have made mistake about this, and it's now about whether you will handle the motion or not. Chairman, you drew a line last time, and I'm going to the court for that. Now I need a very clear ruling. I have moved 14,274 motions, and ND is very smart. He has made an initial analysis. I still have a lot of tricks. I'm not going to tell you now. But the issue is you have to tell me clearly why you choose this and not that. You have to give me concrete reasons. Now I'm talking about the overall labor market of Hong Kong, and there are some aging industries and trades in Hong Kong. So why do you particularly choose one but not the others? You cannot explain yourself. And also the secretary has to know this. It is totally related to your pilot scheme. And what I'm doing will open your eyes. Now, when we talk about this pilot scheme, I am going down to all the details. Now, I'm lending you this so that you can take all this back and your colleagues can all learn a lesson. I'm not going to repeat myself, Mr. Wong. I have received 14,000 odd motions, and I am not going to handle all of them. That's not enough time. We already had a thorough communication, and if you are not going to consolidate them, of course, I will give you a written reply in detail after the meeting. So first of all, I would like to ask you if you have any other questions concerning the item. Dr. Fernando Cheung, I have a point of order. This is about paragraph 37A. And now you are discussing with Mr. Wong Yuk-man. You asked him to consolidate the motions he put forward. This is still underway. No, I said just now that I've made a decision. And Mr. Wong says that he's not going to consolidate the motion, so I have to make a ruling. And later on, the ruling in writing will be given to Mr. Wong, and the motions will be returned to Mr. Wong. Mr. Leung Sing, I would like to say that with regard to this point of order, I would like to say this. I will not agree with you because you think that one member can only put forward one motion. And you can draw a line under 37A. This has to be put in the record clearly. Mr. Kenneth Leung, it's also about 37A. You said that there should be a logical consolidation. Yes, I can see what the logic is. But I would like to ask you, you are suggesting a consolidation, and it has to be agreed by Mr. Wong Yuk-man. If he does not agree, then for the 14,274 motions, all of them will be returned, or will you be doing the consolidation for Mr. Wong Yuk-man? The member who puts forward the motions would have to do the consolidation himself. Now, if there are no other comments or questions, Mr. Leung. Chairman, we didn't have a chance to look at the 14,274 motions. So I can only rely on the assistance of the Secretariat. Now the Chairman is trying to do something with the assistance of the Secretariat. Now the 14,274 motions have been analyzed by the Secretariat, and they are now classified. So if you look at page 1, you can see 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. So is that the combination? I want the Secretariat to explain to me clearer. Why do I ask this question? Because I want to know if there is a need for us to object to you because of the procedures. Now, our party wants all the livelihood proposals to be approved as soon as possible. However, if what you are doing is violating 37A, of course we have to deal with it. But if you are saying that you are doing this just for this time, and in the future your decision this time will not be binding, and this will not set a precedent, then that's another story. But I think up to the moment we haven't had enough assistance. I don't know whether it's the legal advisor or the clerk who can help the chairman to answer my questions. Clerk, can you give a supplementary answer to the member? Chairman, well, because we have limited time, and we just started work yesterday noon, and we have to look at over 10,000 motions. Mr. Leung is right. We have seen the major contents, and there are slight variations. They are about different district councils, about different institutions, and they have to vote first. So if you look at the pile of documents, they are examples of different motions. Some of them are about voting, some of them are about consultation for more than 12 months. Now, because a lot of motions have been received, the chairman has looked at the capacity of the FC. The chairman thus has to make a decision as to how these motions should be handled. And he has reached a decision that the motions should be consolidated. So at the PWSC, this approach has already been used. So this is the stage we are at now. I would like to thank the clerk for his explanation. Mr. Oberchan, what do you want to say? Well, the chairman made a ruling and there was a precedent. But I have a question. Now, have you given reasonable time to the member who moves the motion? This is also very important. If the time given is reasonable, then the member who moves the motions can make a decision. So you may not need to make a ruling right away. So we can handle other items first, and some time should be given to the member who moves the motions. Yes, I know what you mean, but I had a dialogue with Mr. Wong, and I made a basic ruling. Ms. Emily Lau, Vice Chairman. Chairman, I don't really understand what you are doing. For 37A, the FC has made reference to it a lot. Of course, I understand the legal advisor's advice. However, we have not had a thorough discussion. Some Pan-Democrats also said just now that we are not trying to stop the passing of the livelihood proposals. So this is not about setting a precedent. I think the FC has to have a detailed discussion of this. You said that you had a discussion with the member and the clerk made a conclusion, etc., and I'm still not too clear. Maybe the legal advisor and the clerk can explain further. So will this decision be binding in the future? You know that at the previous meetings we talked about 37A, when we already asked the Secretariat to put together a paper on this. I believe Ms. Lau will remember this. So would this be a precedent? I don't think so. I would not regard this as a precedent. So we are just trying to communicate. We have all expressed our intention. We all support this proposal, and I have let the members express their views. Dr. Kwokaki, now if you want me to believe in your ruling is impossible, it's not important. It is important because we've lost confidence in you. You didn't even get one vote, so you cannot convince us. So let us brush this aside first. And just now the clerk mentioned something that's very important. Yesterday the clerk started to look at the 14,274 motions that were put forward under 37A. But there is a risk here. Now he just had very limited time, so even the clerk himself didn't look at the motions clearly. So if you want members to believe in the chairman and the clerk, because you just had a very short time to look at this, we really cannot have confidence in you.
And in fact, we haven't had the time to study the content of all the motions to see whether the groupings or the groupings proposed are reasonable. And also, before you come to a ruling, you should allow members, the clerk, and the legal advisor to really understand the content and the implications. And even if you want Mr. Wong Yok-man to consolidate the motions, you have to give him sufficient time. If you want him to consolidate the 14,000 odd motions, you have to give him sufficient time, and then maybe we can discuss other items first. So it's important that you give him sufficient time to deal with the motions. Mr. Leung, Kenneth Leung. Now, I'm not trying to delay things, but so we have these 18 combinations. And what if we, in the FC, endorse 1A? And if we approve 1A, then does it mean that we have to vote on all the other combinations or permutations? So how are we going to go about voting on these combinations? Let me give you a simple answer. It's basically for the member moving the motion to the side, and so I don't think there is a need to discuss this issue. Yes, any final comments, Mr. Wong Yuman? Right, you want to ask the clerk a question? Oh yes, Mr. Kiki Kwok. Now Andy said he didn't have sufficient time to study the motions. So can he tell me how much time he needs to study the motions in detail and to come up with advice that he considers sound? Andy? Chairman, 37A is about members moving motions without notice. I thank Mr. Wong Yok Man for giving the Secretariat his motions before the meeting. The Secretariat spent almost the whole of yesterday studying the motions. So we have already grouped the motions into different categories or under different groupings. Now, and I want to say that the chairman is not suggesting that we should vote on the basis of the 18 combinations. In fact, we were just seeking to give the chairman an idea of the main content and of the motions and the variations. So it's not for the chairman or the clerk to tell the member concerned what he wants to move and what he doesn't want to move. So it's for the member to decide. So in other words, the chairman, the clerk, and the legal advisor haven't really studied the motions in detail. In fact, over 14,000 motions. We started studying them after 12 noon yesterday. And after we've read the Secretariat's paper, we can have an opportunity in the future to discuss how 37A should operate for the benefit of the Finance Committee. I thank members for their very good comments or suggestions on 37A. And I think concerning 37A, in the future, we should have a discussion on how we can resolve the issue, or else the smooth operation of the Finance Committee will be affected or disrupted. All right, so I believe members all want to see this item passed, and so if members have no other questions or comments, I will now put this item to the vote. Those in favor of FCR 2014-2015. Mr. Wong Yok Man, do you have anything further to say? So you're voting on this item. Oh my God. So if you refuse to consolidate the motions, no one can consolidate the motions on your behalf. All right, let's have a break. I'll have to consider this matter. All right. Let's have a break of 10 minutes. Let's have a break of 10 minutes.
各位埋翻位就繼續我哋嘅會議。
I think we can continue. Please be seated because we still have 10 minutes to go before the second session ends.
Members, please go back to your seats.
Please
go back to your seats, members. We will continue the meeting right away. Well, for 37A, I have made a ruling in accordance with that paragraph. And if Mr. Wong Yuk Man does not consolidate his motions, well, because the member who moves the motions has to do the consolidation. So if he's not going to do that, then the motions will be returned to him afterwards. Yesterday, I called Mr. Wong because of the motions. Maybe he's too busy. I have records here. I called him twice, but I couldn't get a reply from him. So that's why we are handling the motions like this. I believe this is fair, and I would like to let you know what happened. So I have made this decision. Are there other questions concerning this item? If not, we will move on to voting. And I would repeat. Is it a point of order? Please be succinct. So for the 14,274 motions, you are returning them to the member. So does it mean that you would treat it as if he hasn't put forward his motions? Are you rejecting his motions or what? And what are the reasons for your rejection? I've reiterated many times, a ruling with justifications will be sent to Mr. Wong Yuk Man in writing later. I cannot read out the ruling at the moment. It's like the president. After he makes a ruling, he will send a copy of the ruling in writing to members. Now, this is outrageous, Chairman. For 37A is in the FC procedures. It is a right for members. Now, you are muddled, but you cannot muddle through this. So when you are dealing with 37A, well, you can't even write your ruling. And you are not dealing with the members' motions. How can you be a chairman? I've already answered you. You are just unhappy with my ruling. I'm just asking you to say one more time. I am going to send a ruling in writing to Mr. Wong, and all his motions will be returned to him. I'm sure he has heard me loud and clear. And there should be no more dispute over this. Mr. Allen Lau. Chairman, thank you for letting me speak. I think we all can be frank. Now, we want the livelihood proposals to be passed as soon as possible. However, we do not want your ruling to become a precedent, which we do not want to see. Just now, I asked Mr. Wong Yuk Man. I don't know if he is willing to retract the 14,000 plus motions. Now you are saying that you do not allow him to retract. What does that mean? No, I would like to clarify. As a member, if he puts forward a motion, whether he retracts that motion or not, it's his decision. It's not that I forbid him to do so. But I also have to make it clear, because now we just had a discussion and now I've come to a ruling. That is, the motions will be returned to him, and I will also give him a ruling in writing. I'm sorry, the speaker's not coming through. This is how I understand it. Please be succinct. I've already said this. What we do not want to see is a ruling in writing. Now, if Mr. Wong retracts the 14,000 plus motions, why would there be a ruling in writing? If there is a ruling in writing, why does he want to retract his motions? Can Mr. Jimmy Ma tell us what's going on? Why are you forcing this on us? I'm not forcing this on you. I have explained very clearly. If we are returning these motions to Mr. Wong, we will also give him a ruling in writing. But if he retracts the motion, it's not about whether we agree or not, because a ruling has already been made. Sorry, the speaker is not coming through. I will ask the legal advisor what he has to say. I've heard the legal advisor's supplement. Now, because this is a motion without notice, if Mr. Wong decides to retract the motion, he can do so. So will there be no ruling in writing? Well, he can withdraw his motion. He can do so. That's his decision. Mr. Wong. Mr. Wong Yok-man. I think it's dinner time. You shouldn't ask me to give you an answer right away. I think it's time we have dinner. Okay, we can have a dinner break now. Please come back at 10 minutes past 8. We will start the third session.